A few years back, a crew set a regular 52-gallon water heater out in an open field, the same kind sitting in half the basements in this country, and they shut off every safety it had. Then they let it run. That tank sat there looking like a boring metal cylinder right up until it launched, straight up, on a column of steam about 500 feet in the air, like something the space program built. And here's the part I want you to sit with. That wasn't a special tank. That was a water heater with one $20 part taken out of the picture. The same mistake shows up in real houses, and inspectors find it all the time. Stick with me, because I'll show you exactly what it is at the end. And it might be on your tank right now. So how does a tank of warm water sitting in your basement turn into a rocket? Because that sounds insane the first time you hear it. It's water. You drink it. You wash in it. How does water go through a roof? Here's what's actually happening in there. Your water heater has a thermostat, which is just a little brain that says heat the water to this temperature and then stop. Most of the time it works fine for years. But thermostats fail. And when one fails in the wrong way, it fails stuck on. It keeps telling the burner or the element to heat and heat and heat, and nothing tells it to quit. Now, water in an open pot boils at 212 degrees and turns to steam. But the water in your tank isn't in an open pot. It's sealed up tight, under the same pressure as the rest of your house plumbing. And when you put water under pressure, you can heat it way past boiling, and it still stays liquid. It doesn't get to turn into steam, because there's no room and no way out. So now you've got a sealed steel tank full of water that's way hotter than boiling, sitting there like a loaded spring held down by nothing but the strength of the steel. Think of a soda bottle. As long as the cap's on and the bottle's whole, all that fizz stays put. Crack it wrong, and it lets go all at once. Same idea here, except we're not talking about fizz. We're talking about water so hot that the second the tank splits and the pressure drops, that water flashes into steam instantly. And steam takes up about 1,700 times the space that water does. 1,700 times in a fraction of a second. That's not a leak. That's an explosion. And the tank goes with it. That's the kind of number that stops being a plumbing fact and starts being a physics problem. And it's the reason the part I'm about to show you exists at all. Because there is one thing standing between a stuck thermostat and that field full of steam. One part. It's called the temperature and pressure relief valve. Plumbers call it the T and P valve. And from here on, so will I. It's a small brass valve with a flip-up lever, and it screws right into the top of your tank, or sometimes into the side near the top. It has one job in its entire life. If the pressure inside your tank climbs to about 150 pounds, or the temperature hits about 210 degrees, that valve pops open and dumps water out, fast, to bleed off the danger before the tank ever gets near the breaking point. It's a pop-off. Same thing as the little weight that rattles on top of a pressure cooker. When things get too hot and too tight, it opens and lets the pressure out the safe way, on purpose, instead of the tank letting go the ugly way, on its own. That valve is the whole ball game. It is the single most important part on your water heater. And I'd bet money most folks watching this have never touched theirs. Not once. Let's go find it. Walk over to your tank. Look at the very top, or the upper part of one side. You're looking for a brass fitting with a little metal lever on it that flips up and down. And coming out of that valve, there's a pipe. That pipe usually runs straight down the side of the tank toward the floor. That's the discharge pipe, and it's there so that when the valve does dump water, it sends it down low and away from your face, not spraying across the room. Find that valve. Find that pipe. You've now located the safety device that most people don't know they own. And here's the problem with a part that quietly protects you for years. Nobody thinks about it. It sits there. It corrodes a little. Minerals from your water build up inside it, like scale caking up the inside of a kettle. And a valve that's all crusted up on the inside can seize solid without giving you a single warning. It looks perfectly fine from the outside, right up until the day you actually need it to open, and it won't. There's no money in reminding you to test a $20 valve, so nobody does. The plumber makes his living on the day the tank fails, not on the Tuesday you spent 10 minutes making sure it never does. That's not a conspiracy. That's just the math of the trade, which is exactly why I'm the one telling you. Before I walk you through the test, one quick thing. If you want the checklist version of this, along with a simple seasonal calendar that tells you what to look at and when, so nothing on your tank sneaks up on you, that's in my book, 100 Old House Fixes That Save You Thousands. It also walks you through spotting a small leak at the fittings before it works its way into your floor and your cabinets. Links down in the description, and there's a QR code on screen if that's easier. No rush. Finish the video first. All right, let's actually run this thing, because the test is the good part. It takes about 10 minutes. It costs you nothing, and anybody can do it. First, the one caution that matters most. The water that comes out of that discharge pipe is scalding hot. This is the hot water from the top of your tank, so treat it like it can burn you, because it can. Keep your hands and your face out from under that pipe. If your discharge pipe already runs down near the floor the way it's supposed to, most of the water's just going to hit the floor down low, and you'll want a bucket or an old towel there to catch it and see what's going on. If you've got a floor drain right under it, even better. So here's the whole test. You put your bucket or your towel down under the end of the discharge pipe. You reach up to that little lever on the valve, and you lift it up gently and hold it open for just a couple of seconds. 2, 3 seconds. That's it. Then you let it snap back down. What you're hoping to see is a strong, healthy gush of water. It should come out with real force because there's pressure behind it. And then the second you let go of the lever, it should stop clean. Full flow, then nothing. That's a valve doing its job. That's the sound of safety that's alive and ready. If that's what you get, you're in good shape, and you've just done the single most valuable 10 minutes of home maintenance most people never do. But you might not get that. And this is where you need to pay attention, because how your valve fails tells you exactly what to do next. The first bad outcome is nothing. You lift the lever and no water comes out at all. Maybe a dribble, maybe dead silence. That valve is seized shut or completely blocked with mineral scale, which means right now, today, it is not protecting you. It cannot open. If your thermostat stuck on tonight, that valve would sit there frozen while the pressure climbed. A seized T and P valve is not a maybe. It gets replaced, and it gets replaced soon. The second bad outcome is the opposite. You test it, you let the lever go, and it keeps dripping. It won't stop. It won't reseat which just means the little internal seal isn't closing back down, tight the way it should. Now, sometimes that's just a bit of grit caught under the seat, and you can fix it right there by flipping the lever open and shut one more time, firmly, to flush that grit through. Try that once. If it seats and stops, good. But if it keeps weeping after that, the valve's worn out, and it's done. That constant drip isn't the valve being cautious. It's the valve telling you it can't seal anymore. And the T and P valve that can't seal is a T and P valve you can't trust. Either way, seized or dripping, you're looking at a replacement. So let's talk money, because this is where you really see how lopsided this is. The valve itself is about $15 to $25 at any hardware store. Call it $20. If you're handy and it's an electric tank, some folks do this themselves. If you'd rather have a plumber swap it, a straightforward T and P valve replacement runs you somewhere around $150 to $300, depending on your area and how your tank's plumbed. So worst case, $300. Now, here's the other side of that ledger. When a tank lets go and floods a basement, the cleanup, the drying out, the ruined drywall and flooring and whatever you had stored down there, that runs $5,000 to $15,000. And I need you to hear this next part, because it's the part that really stings. Insurance will often deny that claim. If they decide the failure came from neglect, from a part you were supposed to maintain and didn't, they can leave you holding the whole bill. So the choice isn't really $20 versus $300. It's $20 versus maybe every dollar of a $15,000 flood that nobody's going to reimburse. That's the kind of math that makes accountants cry. A part cheaper than a pizza, protecting you from a 5-figure disaster. So how often do you run this test? Every 6 to 12 months. Twice a year if you want to be sharp about it. Once a year at the minimum. Tie it to something you already do, like when you change your smoke detector batteries. Lift the lever, watch the gush. Done. And while you've got your eyes on that tank, do 2 more things on the same visit. First, look closely at the fittings, the connections up top where the pipes meet the tank. You're looking for rust, for crusty white or green buildup, for any little stain that says water's been weeping there. Catching a small leak at a fitting is how you avoid a rotted out tank and a soaked floor later. It's the cheapest early warning you've got. Second, find your thermostat setting and set it to 120 degrees. A lot of tanks come cranked up higher from the factory or from whoever set it last. 120 is plenty hot for anything you do in the house. It cuts your scald risk way down, especially if there are kids or older folks around, and it puts less stress on the tank day to day. Free adjustment. Real payoff. One more safety word. Before I give you that payoff, I promise. The test lifting the lever, that's the safe DIY part, and I want everybody doing it. Replacing the valve is a step up. If you go to swap it yourself, the power or the gas comes off first, always, before you touch anything, and you let the tank cool and bleed the pressure off. And if yours is a gas tank and you're not dead sure what you're doing around that gas line, that's your line in the sand. Call a pro for that one. There's no shame in it. Knowing what to check yourself and what to hand off is the whole game. That's how you save money without ever getting reckless. Okay? The payoff. The mistake I told you about at the top. the one that quietly turns your safety valve back into the bomb. It isn't the valve at all. It's the pipe hanging off it. Remember that discharge pipe, the one running down from the valve toward the floor? That pipe has to be done right, and there are two ways people wreck it. The first way is somebody puts a cap on the end of it. Maybe it dripped once and annoyed them. Maybe somebody just didn't understand what it was for. So they screwed a cap on to stop the drip. The second way is somebody reduces it, meaning they connect it to a skinnier pipe than the valve calls for, choking it down. Either one is a disaster, and here's why. Think about what that pipe is. It's the escape route. It's the only path that superheated water and steam has to get out when the valve opens. Cap it off or choke it down. And now, when your valve tries to do its job in an emergency, the pressure's got nowhere to go. You've taken your safety valve and sealed its mouth shut. That tank you saw go through the roof? A capped relief line does that. You've rebuilt the exact conditions from that field, right there in your basement. That's why the rule exists. That discharge pipe has to run down to within about 6 inches of the floor, with no cap on the end and no reduction in its size the whole way down. Open end, full width, pointed low. That's it. And this isn't some rare thing. Inspectors find capped and choked relief lines in real houses all the time. It might be the single most dangerous plumbing shortcut there is, precisely because it looks so harmless. It's just a little cap. So go look at yours right now, today. Follow that pipe from the valve all the way to the end, and make sure the end is open, the whole run is full size, and it's aimed down near the floor. Now think back to that tank in the field, 500 feet in the air, on a column of steam from a boring metal cylinder that looked exactly like the one in your house. The only difference between that and a Quiet Tuesday is a $20 brass valve that works and a pipe with nothing stuffed in the end of it. You just learned how to check both. 10 minutes, no cost, and you never have to wonder again. If this is the kind of thing you'd rather just have written down, all of it lies in my book. 100 old house fixes that save you thousands. It's the one that helps you tell the difference between a real repair and a cheap patch that'll fail on you. And it gives you the exact questions to ask a contractor so nobody talks you into work you don't need. The links in the description and the QR codes on screen. And if you want more of this, the straight story on the stuff in your house that quietly costs you money, subscribe to Roger the Pipe Guy. That's what I do here, week in and week out. Fixes that keep the money in your pocket instead of somebody else's. I'll see you on the next one.